I'm a disabled person myself. And what you're not going to do is tone police me on how I advocate for my liberation.
I think the point that I'm trying to communicate is that I agree bigotry is wrong, but when you respond to somebody by slamming them and for being quote unquote illiterate because they haven't read 3 trillion books, that's something that's not just
what
going
I will
to
slam
impact
down
the bigot.
and what I will address is the anti-intellectualism that allows for rampant sexism to persist.
Do you mind if I finish?
Well, wait, let me hop in for like 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Slow everybody down. So the one thing that I want to make sure that I level set and we have a clear understanding as far as like how this all happened and where we came from and how this came to be. Specifically, Brooke made the decision to come up and not debate me on my background, but to complain about Ari and her background and the things that she had on her background, not my life, not me. And so Ari came up and specifically started engaging with her in good faith and actually saying like, hey, tell me, you know, what are you doing, how this goes, blah, 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 blah. And so then she went down the diatribe of trying to villainize women, right? Saying that, well, women aren't innocent, like men aren't the problem, it's women. And the fact that, well, if it's so much men, then why is it that women are the ones that are on Pornhub and OnlyFans? And so Ari started calling out the fact that, like, what studies have you done on, you know, the patriarchal system, on sex work and things like that? And even more so, she couldn't answer any of those things, and she didn't want to engage in good faith in any way, shape, or form. So when it comes to what Ari was doing, like the reason why Ari said the things that she said and the way that she had the conversation she did is because she lent not only plenty of opportunities for Brooke to be able to actually speak up or defend herself, but Brooke just was someone who was being disingenuous and, you know, confrontational from the very start, and like was specifically calling out Ari for whatever that was. So like that's kind of what happened.
I absolutely understand. I didn't catch that context. But the sentiment that I'm trying to communicate here is when we pretend...
Tone policing black women.
That is not the sentiment I'm trying to
That
communicate.
is the tone. I don't care about the intent. I care about the impact. And you came up here and tone police black women. That's what the fuck you did.
Do you mind if I finish, Ari?
I do mind you tone policing black women. Let's just call a spade a spade.
Okay, well, so I'm not trying to tone police a black woman. The sentiment... So I don't think that we're going to be able to get anywhere if we don't allow each other to speak. So I think that the constructive criticism in the sentiment that I'm trying to communicate is that I think it could come off very abrasive and harmful to many people, especially those with particular learning disabilities or things such as ADHD or dyslexia, to suggest that there's one way to learn. And if you don't learn...
that either. You're doing the white man thing, so I don't care for the white man thing. I'm an educator.
Finish?
I'm an educator who literally my platform centers around literacy and teaching people different ways to engage in literacy. Audiobooks, group reading sessions, and how to unpack how our education system does reading trauma, because I understand our education system does a terrible job of teaching the foundations of literacy. So do not tone police me or how I advocate for my liberation or my profession on how I engage in literacy, right? Because literacy means multiple different things. And the issues in this country is that we coddle to whiteness, especially white men like your fucking self, and think that your voice is valid in this conversation when it's fucking not. Your voice and your input does not fucking matter to me. But what I will not take from a white man is your criticism when you are the issue with this fucking country. You are the epitome of white privilege, thinking that your voice on a topic, especially regarding sexism and misogynoir, fucking matters, when it doesn't. And I'm gonna say it as angry as possible, while women like me are actively disappearing and unaliving. I'm gonna be as loud as possible, and I'm going to be as aggressive, because you're gonna sign it anyway, as possible till y'all fucking do something about it. Go, instead of tone policing me and being here, why don't you go unpack your whiteness, Dean? Instead of tone policing me, why don't you unpack your misogyny, Dean? Why don't you go unpack your transphobia, Dean? Because Cass is still waiting for you. Because now Cass is my mutual. Go address Cass, right? Go address your misogyny. Go address your whiteness. instead of talking to me because you feel enabled to talk on topics that have nothing to do with you and that you can speak for communities. Oh, I'm doing what's best. I'm advocating. I'm telling you what's the best direction for your community. No, you're fucking not, because you don't know that, because you still haven't unpacked your fucking whiteness. You go read books on unpacking white supremacy before you fucking talk to me about what to do for me and mine.
So the sentiment that I'm trying to communicate, and the critique in which I'm attempting to offer, is not one that is supposed to critique the way that you respond to racism, the way that you respond to misogyny or misogynoir, or the way in which you respond to any prejudice. In fact, the sentiment in which I'm trying to communicate is one in which is very simple. It is that there's not one right way to learn.
So then great. So then you're not needed here. You're not needed.
Hold on one second,
So
Ari.
my method is my method.
Hold on one second, Ari. Let him get this out, because but I love both of you guys, but I really want us to try to bring this to a conclusion. I think that this isn't necessarily the most constructive thing, but I do want both of you to be able to speak. But just give him a second.
I'm
please,
sorry.
Ari.
I'm gonna be honest, Santana. I'm not listening to no white man. So he's just talking to a wall if he's talking to me. I'm not listening to no white man.
The sentiment that I'm trying to communicate here is that when we call people illiterate and ridicule their intelligence for not reading a bunch of books, this sublimity communicates the message that there's one right way to learn. However, I think what I've discovered alongside many other people is that there is not one right way to learn, and that for many people, learning doesn't mean sitting down and reading 10 books, but learning could be in another mode that is more accessible to them. And I think I speak for many individuals that may have ADHD or dyslexia or similar disorders where reading books is not the right way to learn for them, and they might prefer something a bit more interactive or short form content, such as engaging in articles or touching something, seeing something. But the thing is when you communicate the sentiment that if you don't read a bunch of books, you are illiterate, and there's just no way that you could possibly know anything about any given subject, then you are, in virtue of that fact, hurting people who use more accessible means of education to learn. I'd like to clarify that this has absolutely nothing to do with the content of the arguments from that other person who was on the live, nor anything to do with any form of prejudice or bigotry directed to use a black woman. I absolutely understand that I, as a white man, have no space in controlling or ushering.
You have no space to talk to me about learning disabilities.
I am very specifically talking about.
You have no space to talk to me about learning disabilities either.
Means to learn might feel hurt by the statements that you ushered, like ridiculing people, referring to them as illiterate if they don't read a bunch of books.
Talk to me about disabilities either. Because again, when I'm speaking about literacy, there are multiple modes of literacy. There's media literacy, right? Math is a form of literacy.
Rip, come here.
So again, that's your understanding of literacy.
Come here.
It's not a me issue.
Come here.
When people come to my platform,
You're
they
missing
know
it.
what I
Get
mean
over
by
here.
literacy, because they come
Come
to
here.
a space and listen. If people actually wanted to engage and learn, they would.
Snarky.
They would. If they wanted to learn about a topic, they would. And they would engage in all the modes accessible to them that they had the desire to. Like I said, I run a Discord literally centered around literacy, about people engaging in the ways that they can actually, I don't even force them to read educational books. I say start with the books that you desire to get a love of reading, whatever it is, or however you receive literacy. I don't even require people to read the books when they enter my Discord. I say come in and listen to the discussion around the books that we're reading, in case you just want to unpack it in space and not even read the book. They don't even have to read it out, so they don't have to purchase it. So don't talk to me about the different modes of engaging literacy, because I provide all of that, right? But what's happening with anti-intellectualism in this country is people feel the audacity to speak on topics without educating themselves an ounce. And I will address that. And I will account for that, because that's what's wrong. And I don't care if it makes certain people feel ashamed of themselves, because you still should feel ashamed for speaking on topics you haven't done any baseline information on. You haven't listened to a seminar. You haven't engaged in any which way that you feel best you learn through. You haven't even taken the time to fucking do. And you want to critique me. That woman came up to critique me on my platform, but having even talking to me. She came to Santana to come talk to Santana about me while I'm minding my business on a Sunday watching Demon Slayer? So the answer is no. I reject it all. Because what I am going to do is I'm absolutely going to fucking shame you for having the audacity to, one, not just not come to me. She could have came to my platform at any time with her concerns and say, I disagree, right? And we would have discussed it. But she didn't. She came here to Santana, a fucking man, to discuss sexist topics and regarding women's liberation, right? Without even doing any baseline information or research, not a single documentary, didn't ask for a book resource, not a paper, nothing. And people feel the audacity to speak on topics they're not informed of. Yes, I'm going to fucking shame that, because people should not be speaking on topics they're not informed of. And again, I give all the accessibility within my fucking platform. So I do not give a fuck about what you say and your criticism. And does not matter what you say your intent is. It matters the fucking impact. If you actually engage and care about these topics you say you claim you care about, the impact is what fucking matters. So you giving me your intent does not fucking matter here.
So I completely agree with you that it's okay to shame people that speak on topics while they're uneducated on those topics that inevitably harm people. The reason why I'm so adamant about my critique here is because I come from a family of 2 generations of special education teachers. And the one thing that's always been imprinted onto me, and the one thing that I've always found valuable, is to ensure that we're fostering an environment in which is inclusive of all forms of education, not just one. And I guess the way in which you were speaking, it kind of indicated that there's one right way to learn. And if you don't read books, if you don't read a billion books, then you are illiterate and uneducated. And I just feel like that excludes people who learn through other means than reading books. And it's really important to promote that. Now, you shared with me that that's something that you personally promote on your lives, and that's something that you personally promote in your Discord. And I love that. I think that's great. I think maybe at the end of the day, it's just important to ensure that that sentiment is always carried. And that there's never a moment where people feel excluded or put down because they don't learn like you do. But that's really all I have to share, and I appreciate you so much.
Make sure you contact Cass before you speak to me about any criticisms. Make sure you contact Cass. Okay?
Let me say this. The one thing that I will say is that being the way that I feel about both of you, and both of you obviously know how I feel about both of you, and even though you two aren't necessarily aligned, I do think there's something to be said as far as being able to figure out a way to hear each other as a whole. And I mean, I'm hoping that there's something taken from both of you. Hopefully, maybe even a conversation that can come out of this that would benefit not only each other, but the whole. I think there's a lot of things that can be done to help each other. And so I'm just hoping that we go from that point. So I appreciate you guys.
Cool. Well, I hope that you see I'm not trying to be mean, rude, or targeting.
Oh,
and
fuck
that
off,
I'm
Dean.
just
Goodbye.
trying to promote an environment where everybody, even those that learn in alternative ways in accordance with other accessibility means, should feel invited and included in an environment to foster critical dialogue and reasonable thought. Appreciate you for letting me up. Take care.
All right, bro. Have a good one. Well, that was interesting. Let's see if we can get back to some debates, shall we? Or at least have the comments back on.